Hello, my name is Professor Dimitrios Buhalis and I'm the director of the eTourism lab in Bournemouth University. Today I'm going to speak to you about how technology is changing the world of tourism and how it's enabling personalization and contextualization, and through that the creation of value for consumers who are traveling around the world. And I'd like to talk to you about three things: how technology drives interactivity and value through personalization. I'd like to talk to you about how consumers are becoming agile, interconnected and co-create experiences through collaboration with organizations and other individuals, and how tourism organizations and destinations are developing smartness and agility in order to create a value for their consumers and maximize their competitiveness. When we start with the technology, you see that everything is becoming interconnected, and we have what we call agility and interoperability, where machines are connected to other machines and they create machine-to-machine collaboration interoperability. This is what we call the Internet of Things, which enable organizations to interact with other organizations in maximizing the value that they offer through interconnectivity and creating virtual organizations. In the tourism context, you see airlines being connected with hotels, with transportation companies, with other local transportation companies like railway or taxis, in order to create the journey of the customer in the best possible way. Interoperability and interconnectivity will be critical, and what's going to happen in the future is a lot of the services being created in the cloud. What you have is mobile and smartphones, mobile services and smartphones supporting this interconnectivity and offering real-time services where everybody is interconnected and they engage in conversation in real time. As a result of that, tourism destinations and cities are creating smartness, and you've got the movement of what we call smart cities, where all the services and products are actually interconnected. These may include emergency services, it may include utilities, it may include education, it may include customer and citizen services. And we see that coming into destinations by interconnecting all the different elements of the tourism organizations and the tourism destinations, and creating value, personalized value for consumers who are choosing to go to that destination. I think in general organizations will need to bring their technology strategy in line with their business and marketing strategy, and they'll need to engage in an assessment of how these technologies will help them achieve their full potential and competitiveness in the future. And they need to ask themselves whether they are ready for what we call the four screen strategy, where consumers can actually contact the same information, access the same information by using computers, televisions, mobile devices, connected devices like cars or other kind of game consoles or other kind of services. And the question is, can we coordinate all the stakeholders? Can we bring all the stakeholders together in pointing to the right service and the right product to be offered to consumers, and to be offered through a product proposition that's profitable and enable us to maximize our competitiveness? And of course, in the last 2 years, 9% of the world data has been created. So do we really have the opportunity to manage the big data, and do we understand how to use the big data for decision making, and to understand how the big data will help us to create better products and services in order to do that? When you look into consumers, you understand that the consumers are now totally interconnected. They are constantly using technology in order to find information, to interact with their environment, to do their job. And they're using a range of smart devices like smart mobile phones, connected cars, social media, and increasingly what we call wearable technologies. Things like Google Glasses and also other technologies that they'll constantly monitoring the environment and discuss and engage in conversations with different stakeholders in order to bring the best products and services out there. I think we need to realize that consumers are becoming real-time engagers with their environment, and there'll be less planning and less time to interact in the future, because consumers would like to have answers on the spot. And we need to understand that the distribution channels are changing because of this, and in the future the successful distribution channels will be those that they'll be able to interact and engage in real time and constantly with consumers to actually provide solutions and value on the spot. We need to understand that different nations operate in different social media. For example, in China, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and the Google suite is actually blocked. So they're using QQ, RenRen, and WeChat as their main social media. So therefore, we need to understand how to engage with consumers in different kind of social media at the place that they are. And we need to realize that consumers do not see loyalty anymore in that sense. Loyalty is not to organizations or to destinations anymore, but they are loyal to value. So we need to understand how to create value in order to create loyalty. And value will be created by providing personalizable and contextualizing products and services that satisfy their needs at that particular moment. And that is absolutely critical. I'm doing a lot of work right now for people with disabilities. And people with disabilities have got specific needs and requirements that quite often are not very flexible. If you're in a wheelchair, you cannot go up 5 or 10 steps, and therefore you need to have very specific requirements that they need to be met. So consumers will be looking for organizations that they can provide this information or engage in real-time conversation and offer that service in order to create value for them. And that is absolutely critical. A lot of reviews and opinions will be exchanged in the marketplace on technological platforms. For example, most people use TripAdvisor before they travel, or even when they book for their holidays, they just use TripAdvisor to confirm that their booking is the right one. It's critical, therefore, that we need organizations and destinations to manage their online reputation in order to be able to create that kind of value and engage with consumers in real time. I think the other issue that consumers will be facing is how they're going to be using this wearable technology to interact with their environment. So you've got augmented reality that will be emerging in the future, where we're constantly going to interact with our environment, find information about our environment, filter the information according to our requirements, and ensure that you've got value that is addressing your particular needs at that contextual moment. So if it's raining, it will be a very different day in London than if it is a sunshine in London. If you go to a destination and you have got, let's say that you go to Crete and you'd like to see some of the archaeological treasures there, it will be a very different experience if you've got 3 hours to do that or if you've got 15 days. And technology will enable us to manage the experience and manage the time and manage the context according to the user requirements and according to what you've got around. So consumers will expect to be inspired before they go somewhere. Then they expect to be able to be supported on the decision making and choosing the right products and service for them before they travel to the destination. Then they expect in real time at the destination to be supported by organizations that they offer the right products and services to them. and then they would share their experience and co-create experience with others. And this is a loop that kind of goes around, where the previous experience of a consumer will provide inspiration for the next trip of someone else to travel to the destination. I think we need to ask ourselves, do we really understand the consumers and where the consumers are going? And do we understand why consumers are interested in our products and what they find interesting in our product? Do we meet their requirements, and do we understand what they need at each different contextual stage? And can we encourage co-creation? Can we make other consumers being ambassadors to our products in their communities? Can we get the people who are coming to particular destinations to go back to their countries and say, this is the best destination for me, I had a fantastic time? And can we add value through differentiation and through engagement with consumers? Because it's not only about differentiating the product anymore, it's about the engagement, it's about the interaction that will create value as well. So quite often the differentiation will be based on how consumers will understand their needs, express them to us, and us being able to actually supply them. And I think that creates a whole range of different opportunities and challenges for organizations, that they need to understand their future in a very, very different way. Understand the future that there is not one product fits all, but the product can be adjusted to the context, it's adjusted to the situation of the consumer, and adjusted to the context that we have currently. And understanding how the different cultures, the different nations, the different ages, the different levels of the technological adoption can actually interact with all those things. I think we need to go into the inspiration of consumers to come to us and come back to us and create marketing through this engagement and this personalization. And quite often we need to understand that consumers are moving away from traditional media to new media. How many people do buy newspapers every day? How many people are buying magazines? Do we advertise? Where is all this advertising expenditure going? And is it just burned in paper that nobody reads? Also, how many people are watching more than 3 hours of television every day? And you can understand that a lot of traditional advertising is actually going out of fashion. What we have instead is what we call SOCOMO marketing and context-based services. Context-based services is about understanding your situation within your environment, understanding what is the weather right now, what the time is right now, where you are, with whom, what do you do there, and what kind of products and services you actually prefer, and come back with a proposition that is actually suitable for you. SOCOMO marketing is looking into social media, context awareness, and mobile devices to actually interact with you and implement this kind of marketing, provide you the right offer at the right time, and supporting consumers to manage their experience. And I think gradually we'll use technology to enlarge our communities and communicate in real time with consumers around the world in order to provide value for them. I think organizations will need to ask themselves, do you integrate social media strategies with marketing strategies and the business strategy? Or are they different people doing these things in a very different way? Do we have the same tone of voice across the organization? And does the product proposition offer the same kind of attributes and brands and value across all the different channels? And are we still thinking traditional destination marketing and traditional tourism organization marketing, or are we thinking about engagement and real-time services? And do we resource these things? Do we have enough people supporting engagement? Do we have enough people answering the emails? Do we have enough people answering every single message on Facebook and Twitter and things like that? And how long does it take us to do that? KLM, for example, has actually made a commitment that it answers in person within 1 hour for every message that they receive on any different platform that they do. And I think this is the kind of service that consumers will appreciate in the future, and this is the kind of service that we will be able to manage if we would like to have competitiveness and maximize our profitability in the future. And I think real time is absolutely critical, because consumers will actually interact with organizations on all different platforms, and they will express needs and desires, and they will expect organizations to be able to answer those. And we'll have what we call consumer centricity, where the consumer will be sitting in the middle. They'll have a whole range of devices that they're all interconnected. They'll have profile portability in the sense that the devices will understand who he is and what's their preference and what we can do for them. And then you'll have got a whole range of networks, and then you'll have got a lot of range of applications to enable them to achieve what they really want to achieve. So to conclude, I think we need to understand how technology is driving engagement and real-time collaboration and co-creation with consumers, and competitiveness will depend on the ability of organizations to work within their community and their context to create the best product and service and the best value that the consumer will require, and engage in conversation on how to deliver this value. I think the future will be quite challenging and quite interesting, and will have much better products and services that will enable organizations to maximize their productivity and competitiveness.